It is time for new year, new me, new notebooks, new intentions, new vision boards. God, I just love starting fresh. So welcome back to the Virtual CEO. I am Amy Wallin. And today I want to talk about the resolutions that I'm bringing into business this year. And let me start by saying, I know that New Year's resolutions get a bit of a bad rap, right? People hear words like goals or intentions or themes, and they immediately start thinking, oh, great, another one of those new year, new me people, that's me, making all these unrealistic promises that they're no doubt going to be abandoning them by February. I have seen so many LinkedIn posts shitting on resolutions already in 2026. I do not like that energy. If you're just a person that shits on everything from resolutions to astrology to music tastes, I'm going to give you some free feedback from the general populace. You are not great to be around. Sorry. No one likes someone who just hates everything as their entire personality. It's boring. If someone has hobbies or beliefs or faiths or whatever, and they're not harming anyone, just let them have it. You know what I mean? Just let them have it. There's no need to put more hate and negativity into the world. It's just not necessary. Anyway, let's dive in because we're meant to be talking about business, kind of. I have always been a resolutions person. I love that every single year I get another opportunity to rebrand and refresh and restart and not drag last year's bullshit into the new year. It just forces a refresh. But every resolution should start by looking back, at least in my opinion. If you want to grow, you need to understand what was stopping you from growing the previous year, not just what you want to achieve in this year. And frame your resolutions around what was stopping you the previous year from achieving the things that you want to achieve. Last year was the year of the snake, which fittingly was all about shedding your skin, recalibration, letting go of things that no longer fit, right? Whether that's habits or assumptions or ways of working, whatever it is. And now we're about to step into the year of the horse, which is movement, right? Year of the horse is all about momentum and having that forward energy. And when I reflected on 2025, I didn't do it through this big strategic lens. I wasn't asking, what was the master plan or what was the 5-year vision? I was looking at it through small moments because as much as you do normally view your history through these really, really big moments, the big traumas or the big achievements or the big projects that you completed, it's always the small moments that are the ones that make up your life or lead you to achieve things, right? It's the small moments that ultimately decide what your success or what your failure is going to be. It's when you decide in the morning that, you're going to skip the gym because you're too tired. That's me. I literally did that this morning, but it's a small moment. It's when you get annoyed at a situation and it shows all over your face because you still haven't learned to master your inside emotions yet. Again, something else I have a problem with. But then suddenly your mood is being broadcast and then absorbed by absolutely everyone around you who is watching that. And it's these small moments that show you who someone is down to their core. When they let someone in traffic, another small moment. When they are kind to hospitality staff, right? Another small moment. Or when you go to shake someone's hand when you're meeting them for the first time and they squeeze your hand way too fucking hard in your handshake. It's these tiny moments that you do every day that make up who you are and how you come across to people, which in turn is the thing that attracts or detracts things to you. People, projects, health, money, success. So when you're looking at your previous year, what decisions or actions impacted your life in a positive way or in a negative way? So that's what I do when I'm doing my reflections is let's look at the small moments. And so what I've done is I've summed that up into 3 neat little resolutions that will dictate not just the goals, but the energy and the intentions that will ultimately make my life and my business better. So let's go through them because I think a lot of it will be relevant to a lot of people. The first resolution is to take more imperfect action. Now, I made this resolution because I noticed that something uncomfortable about myself last year. The things that moved my business or me forward didn't come from a lot of careful planning or waiting until everything lined up perfectly. They came from these moments where I just rolled up my sleeves and did the thing, even though maybe it made me slightly uncomfortable, or maybe I hadn't done enough preparation for it. Let's start with something simple like the gym, because that's everyone's resolution every year, is to be fitter, healthier, hotter, whatever. Taking imperfect action means maybe you don't have a perfect workout plan. Maybe you don't have a cute gym set or the perfect playlist, right? But you just go anyway. You focus on taking the action, building the routine, and then add in the pieces as you go. But if you take a look at business, right, it's saying yes to an opportunity that perhaps you're not 100% prepared for, but it forces you to get prepared because you have said, yes, I can do this. It might be like saying yes to a presentation offer, or, to join a podcast, to be a guest. It might be trying something new out and failing fast or winning. It might be something like if you see a problem, especially a staffing problem, and you jump on it immediately instead of just doing one of these ones, crossing your fingers and hoping it goes away. Imperfect action is better than no action at all. Taking no action on everything is like a death by 1,000 cuts. You don't realize it until you get to the end of the year and all of those lofty ideas you had about hiring an executive assistant, about starting a podcast, about signing up for pickleball, I don't know, whatever it is for you. You haven't done it because you couldn't take imperfect action. And, then before you know it, 10 years have gone past and you haven't taken imperfect action, and you've done nothing new and you've achieved nothing new. I want to be clear, though, this goal is not about being reckless. It's about being responsive. It's about what happens when you trust yourself enough to make a move before you have certainty. Literally, sometimes just building the parachute on the way down in some cases, right? And if I'm honest, the longer that I have been in business, the more I have noticed how often, being sensible or, just putting things off is just fear in a better outfit. The truth is, you're going to fail at some things. It is not scary if you consider it an inevitability. So now your choice is more, how slowly do I want to fail every time you do something? How much time do I want to dedicate towards failing? And by the way, if doing nothing is death by 1,000 cuts, it's just a slow fail, an incredibly slow fail. And the thing is, you want to fail fast. Like when I look back on my year, I feel so exhausted thinking about all the times that I did that, about where I didn't make a decision. Whereas if I just said, you know what, yes, let's try it. And I threw money and resources at it. And then if it didn't work, I said, good lesson, let's move on immediately. And then if it did work, well, that's fantastic. I've won something I expected that might fail. But just like taking the action, it saved me time. And it also made my employees think of more things that we could try, because they knew that I was more likely going to say, yes, let's just give it a go. Let's just try it. And if only 1 out of 10 things worked, right, that I tried, let's say that month, I tried 10 things and only 1 of them worked, I know I'm still doing better than, that other CEO that made only 3 decisions this year and only 1 of them worked, right? He might have a better ratio of things working out, but at the end of the year, I have 12 projects or 12 things that worked, and he only has 1. I got success from 12 different things because I tried 120 things. You want some girl math? There's some girl math right there. Try more things, fail faster. Whereas my mother likes to say, a quick game is a good game. Thanks, Mum. I knew she was wise this whole time. The second resolution that isn't just for business, but I think we can all benefit from, is to step away from the screen and get in front of people. And I don't just want to make this about screen time, even though, that is definitely a part of it. We all spend way too much time on our phones. So I'll narrow it down and specifically focus on, literally being at work as a business owner. And I want to be really honest about why this resolution is really hard for me, because stepping away from the computer, it triggers a lot of guilt, especially when you're at work. And I think it does for a lot of us that run businesses, right? There's this part of my brain that equates, working with an immediate output, right? And whether that's something as simple as, emails sent, documents finished, tasks ticked off, right? So when I'm not actively producing something tangible, there's this low-level panic that creeps in, like I'm being lazy, or like I'm falling behind, or like I should be doing something. And that mindset, that I've had my entire life has held me back more than I realized. I've certainly got a lot done, but it doesn't mean it's always quality things, right? Because I'm so output focused that I forget I need input to actually be better. And that might be taking away a day away from my business to learn a new skill that's going to make my content perform 10% better this year. That might be, taking a holiday that helps me refresh and not get so frustrated at the small things that, quite frankly, bring everyone down and they make my staff absolutely miserable. It might be going to a networking event, right? And hearing about what other people are doing. And maybe those conversations inspire me to try something different in business or to start a new partnership or just a million other things that you can get from just talking to people. You cannot outperform bad input or no input. That's the very definition of working harder, not smarter. I don't just want to do more. Because when I think about 2025, every single time I stepped away from my computer last year, I got a small upgrade in some way. And all of those small upgrades compounded. When I said yes to presentations and when I said yes to speaking opportunities, even when they didn't directly tie to revenue and I couldn't see an obvious outcome, more people noticed me. Conversations happened. Content ideas dropped into my lap. And honestly, it just started sharpening how I think, right? Because teaching forces clarity. And none of this had this immediate dopamine hit of, great, I've sent an invoice, great, I've checked a task off a list. The results were slower, or sometimes they still haven't hit yet. But the energy was instant. And that's the part I'm learning to trust, to follow the energy of people and of learning and not just doing, not just trying to accomplish. And some people get really addicted to that energy, right? They're always out, they're always visible, they're always talking and making new connections. Maybe to a bad degree, right? But that's not my problem. I'm the opposite. I hide in the grind. And I convince myself that staying glued to work is responsible in a way, that the rest of the stuff, the learning, the connections, that they're all just a little bit indulgent. But they're not. They're fuel. And I need to start treating them like they're fuel. So this year, I am intentionally spending less time in grind mode and more time in motion. Less grinding for the sake of it and more space to absorb, to learn, and to connect. Essentially, more disco, less panic. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, work is still important. And if you're one of those people who uses learning as an excuse to not do anything, please go back to resolution number 1, right? There's a reason that 1 and 2 go hand in hand, and take imperfect action. You still need to do both of them. You can't just pick and choose your resolutions as long as they answer to already what you're doing. Anyway, third resolution for 2026 is going to sound like something that might make you want to turn this podcast off if you've gotten this far, but please don't. I want you to just bear with me because it is something I think is important. Resolution number 3 is to love first. And I made this resolution because somewhere along the way, running a business started to feel like a fight. Every time I jump online, I see more hate and I see more vitriol just being spewed at one party or another, at one race or religion or gender or political party, right? Hate and a war are great attention seekers and they are great attention grabbers. And media, in general, works in one industry, and that is the attention industry. So as human beings, we are rewarded for being negative. I hate that. And it's not just not in our souls, or our happiness, but in attention and money. That's how we're rewarded. But I've had enough of it, quite frankly. And it's not how I want to live my life. And it's not what I want for everyone else, just to be surrounded by this constant negativity. And the problem is, hatred or defending or attacking has just become second nature for not just me, but for everyone. And when you stay in that headspace for long enough, you start responding to people and situations in that way. You start reacting to threats that, quite frankly, aren't even there. And you start creating situations so that you can justify the rage that you're feeling. And stress does that as well. It's not just what we're observing all the time. You become efficient, but you become less generous. You become clear, but you become less kind. And I don't mean kind in a weak, let everyone walk all over you sense. I mean kind in the sense of assuming positive intent, of not entering every single interaction with your fists already squared up and ready to fight. Because if I'm honest, last year there were moments where I could feel myself bracing before conversations even started. It might have been with staff, it might have been with clients, it might have been with peers. And it was just not nice, right? I was listening to respond, but not to understand. I was constantly scanning for problems instead of scanning for possibilities, right? And even when things were going well, it felt like I was just holding my breath for the other shoe to drop. I was waiting for the negative thing to come and slap me in the face. And it is exhausting. And it leaks into absolutely everything. People feel it and people mirror it. And they will either push back or they will shut down or they will start playing defense themselves. So this year, one of the biggest internal shifts I'm making is choose to lead with love first, right? Not naivety, not avoidance, not pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Love first means curiosity before judgment, right? It means asking what is actually going on here instead of immediately deciding someone has dropped the ball on purpose, maliciously, vindictively. It means, smiling at people and assuming that they need help instead of assuming that they are looking to attack you. Unless you're walking down a dark alley yourself and someone is drunkenly yelling at you, like, let's not be stupid here. I'm talking about this in a very corporate setting. Please don't apply this to actually dangerous situations. But it means remembering that, most people actually trying to make your life harder, right? They're just navigating their own mess at the same time as you are navigating yours. Practically, like, this shows up in a lot of small ways, right? And maybe it's something as simple as, just taking a breath before responding to a message that might irritate you. It's asking one more question instead of firing off a correction at someone. It's addressing issues directly, but without that edge and without that anger that normally comes with it, right? And it's also being clearer, because love first leadership, it isn't about being soft. It's just about being more honest. It's saying, this isn't working, but without attaching shame to it. It's giving feedback to people without needing to dominate the conversation, right? It's setting boundaries without making someone feel like it is a problem, they are a problem for having needs, right? It's kind of accepting people's misconceptions instead of constantly fighting them to believe your version. And let me give you an example, because I know this sounds a little bit wishy-washy. So last year for me, a lot of times I'll get onto a sales call with a business owner, specifically with an older male who wants a virtual assistant from me. And now, vulnerability and admitting you need help doesn't come very easily to this demographic. So they will come onto a call and they'll act really tough, and then they'll start to give you advice that you didn't ask for, and fuck, it grates on me. But when you step back and you think of it with love first, you realize that they're actually just trying to connect with you in the only way they know how to connect with you, right? With advice, which to them, the people on the other side of the line, it represents care. It's not because they think that you're stupid. And even if it personally offends me that they are trying to coach me because of whatever reason, me coming back and being combative and forcing them to respect me isn't helping either of us get what we want. So instead, I'm just going to say thank you and move on despite however I'm feeling, because there is power in that. And I know me saying that to him might very well make his whole week. And it costs me nothing but a bit of ego. That is definitely something I can give up without thinking less of myself. We could all do with a little bit less ego, right? And being in constant fight mode, it doesn't make you a better leader. It doesn't get you better outcomes. It just makes you tired. I'm exhausted from it. You don't build trust with tension. You don't build loyalty through suspicion, and you don't build something long-term by treating every single interaction like a negotiation that you need to win. Choosing love first doesn't mean that you stop making hard calls. It just means that you make them a little bit more cleanly. And it doesn't mean that you avoid conflict. It just means that you don't add unnecessary friction to it. And when I look back at all the moments that I'm most proud of in business, they weren't the times where I was the sharpest or times where I was the toughest. They were the times that I handled something difficult without becoming someone that I didn't like. So this resolution is about protecting that version of myself. And I hope other people do it and protect that version of themselves as well. Because business takes on the emotional tone of their leaders. So if I am defensive, the business becomes brittle. If I am calm, if I am clear, if I am grounded, everything else is going to steady. So this year, when things feel just tight or stressful or personal, I'm just going to ask myself one simple question before I respond. And that is, what does love first look like in this situation? Sometimes it's going to look like patience. Sometimes it's going to look like directness. Sometimes it is quite honestly going to look like walking away and, fighting another day. But either way, it is always going to feel lighter. And after years of building and pushing and scaling and grinding, lighter just feels like the right direction. And when I look at these resolutions together, it's not about doing more. It's about showing up differently. It's about taking imperfect action so that things don't, stall in my head. It's about stepping away from the screen so that I remember at the end of the day, this is a people business. It's about leading with love so that everything doesn't feel like a fight I have to win. None of these are these big, dramatic moves. They're not insane goals that I need to hit. They're intentions that change small decisions and made consistently will change how the business feels to run. And honestly, that's what I'm chasing this year. More movement, more connection, more ease. Please God, more ease. And if this made you feel a certain kind of way or inspired you to use any of my resolutions, I'm so glad, right? That is the whole point of me even bothering to do this podcast. And I would love to hear about it. Starting with love first also means giving compliments rather than letting them just sit in your head after all. So I would really, really appreciate 5 stars or a thumbs up, depending on what platform you're watching this on and if you've got it in you. And please share, right? Follow along, and hopefully I shall see you next week on the Virtual CEO.